What's up? I'm trying to learn Spirit of Radio. I never really learned it properly. And I've already discovered I'm trying to make the flange sound. Well, first I'll tell you what it's for. I got to play 3 Rush songs this week at a session. We have to cut like note perfect recreations of a few Rush songs, and that's one of them for this thing I'm doing. And so I'm trying to make the flanger sound for the intro right now. And flanger settings are always tough. I'm using the through zero setting on the Mobius right now, and it doesn't quite sound right to me, but I just started a half an hour ago trying to tweak it. So I'm trying to get it. I've already learned though, a couple things, like, if I turn that off, and I won't have the chorus because I haven't been working on that yet, but the riff at the beginning, I used to play it like this. Right? And it actually goes like this. It's like, oh, there it is. That sounds way more like it. And I've just never really paid attention, I guess. And then there's a couple other things like he does that slide on the C sharp note every time on the main riff in the verse. Of course, we go to it actually sounds pretty good. The flanger's not too far off, but I don't quite have the right tone. But anyway, I'm working on it. What's up, everybody? Happy Sunday to you. Yeah, it's always interesting, you know, when you kind of are learning some of these things. It's like that whole lot of love riff that everybody, you know, plays wrong. Everybody goes. It's right with the. You guys know that, right? So you hit the 5th fret D on the A string, and then also play the 4th string open. And it's that dissonance of the 2 notes that out of tune. That's a really important part of that riff. So it's little things like that. But yeah, I was really, you know. So you kind of let the, you know, the B note on the first part of the riff always ring. And I always went. Anyway, always more to learn. Okay, everybody, what's happening? We should all mess with Pete and tell him we can't hear him, says Chris. I know you can hear me today because I don't have my other audio interface hooked up. Okay. And there's a reminder coming up on my computer here that I'm going to dismiss that says, learn the Rush songs. Yeah, I got to do that on Thursday. All right. So we got about 232 people online. That's awesome. Wow. Good morning to y'all. And let's talk guitar. James says he's got a Sir Reactive Load and a Sir Ace going through a Marshall 20. Well, I guess the Marshall's going through all that. 2555X 100 watt. Both Sir products are really good. Thanks for your videos. Oh, you bet. They are good. Yeah, I noticed Doug Aldrich, I guess, has been using the Ace live instead of a mic. The Ace is an analog speaker simulator. And it does sound really good. Great mic eliminator kind of deal. Good morning, says Art. Jonathan says, good to see you. Good to see you guys. Both you guys. What's happening? And Sean is in the house. What's up? Nice to see you. Julian says, play some. I did. Tone Talk is here and says, hey, Pete, hope you're doing great. Hi, dude. What's up? Good to see you. And Let's see. Zach says he doesn't own monitors or any recording equipment. Is there a way he can incorporate, sorry, is there a way he can separate volume from tone and enjoy a decent sound at a low volume, since I'm in the old guy with kids crowd, and that it isn't tied to a computer? Yes. Well, for one, my new amp is totally gonna, which would be out, you know, it's almost out. So NAMM is the release, but that would be a great way to do it. There's a lot of great amps that have great master volumes that you can just play at low volumes, or like a 112 cabinet or something like that. But if you want to turn the amp up a little bit, there's, well, yeah, my amp will be cool for that. But, you know, consider that this new stuff. So you guys have probably seen, I'm not going to show it to you right now because John will get mad at me, but you guys have seen there's a new Sur reactive load coming, right? I'm playing through it right now. If I turn off the mic for a minute. So I've literally just got the output of the reactive load plugged into my Samson microphone right here. So there's no other, it's doing everything. It's doing all the speaker sim and everything. So in other words, what you could do is with any tube amp, you could plug it into that box and then take the output of it and just plug it into a little powered monitor of some sort. Could be anything. Powered little QSC thing, like for a nice one, or you could have a little studio monitor that's like this big, you know, and just plug into one. Or you could split out into two with some effects. There's all kinds of different stuff you could do, but essentially you could play it like what would be, you know, quiet TV volume, and be cranking your tube amp and be playing, you know, similar sound. I'm just using an IR. You can hear a little bit of effects, and that's in the effects loop of my amplifier. Just some pedals. Got my pedal board hooked up here. Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely ways to do it. Let's see here. I'm just picking random questions I see here in the chat. Pete, I am trying to pick a pedal board. Should I get the Friedman or the Rock board? Do you have any other suggestions? Those are both nice. Just look at the features. You like the modules that go to the, yeah. So both the Friedman and the Rock board, they have these. Rock board is a Warwick product, and they're making pedal boards that have sort of little patch bays that you can pick which one sort of suits your thing the most. Some of them have, you know, MIDI on them, another one MIDI and ins and outs, and it's just like a system of ins and outs basically. There's like jacks, you know, 1/4-inch jacks, and then some of them have MIDI, some of them might have XLRs on them if you're doing more like acoustic DI stuff. So look at the Rock board products. They're interesting. The Friedman one is just a kind of a one deal. It's just the 1/4-inch jacks, and it's got a built-in really high-quality buffer. They're both great. It just depends on your application and what you think you're going to be doing, whether or not you would need MIDI jacks or whether or not you would need the Friedman has one MIDI jack on it, like a MIDI out for the whole board, basically. So it's just a patch bay, essentially. You plug in, you know, the ins and outs from your pedals and stuff. At the end of your chain, the beginning of the chain would all, you know, attach to the back of the patch bay, and then on the front, you're going to easily plug your guitar in there and effects loop sends or anything like that. Both are great. I love the buffer in the Friedman stuff. He put a really high quality. It's kind of a, you know, it's Cornish style buffer, I think, derived from a Pete Cornish circuit. Yeah, so both would be a good option, I would think. My board is the Friedman one. I really love it, and I love the bag it comes with, as well as it fits really nice. It's kind of a custom job, but it fits really nice in a Pelican case that I had foamed for it and stuff like that. Ben is asking, Ben's in the top chat, and he's asking what tubes are in my SL67 or 68. I don't have a 67 actually, I just have a 68. So I have right now old Teslas, but something's not sounding right with the amp to me. It's compressing and squishing too much. So I don't know. It could be the phase inverter tube. Sometimes when phase inverters go bad, I've found that happens because they take a beating. The phase inverter tube in your amp sort of takes as much of a beating as the power tubes, if I'm not mistaken. And you should change the phase inverter when you change the power tubes. But anyway, I'm going to take it out to John and just have him retube, probably with EHs. They're using EHs now, EL34s, I think, for just about everything coming out of SUR, because there's been some supply issues with the JJs. They just start going bad and stuff like that, and having shorts. And so, and both Dave Friedman and John SUR have told me they really like the EHs. I like the EHs when I heard them back at long years and years and years ago. With my Top Hat and Plexador amp. This is going back probably almost 15 years. I remember Brian Gerhardt from Top Hat Amps, a great guy and built great amps and really knowledgeable about old amp circuits. In my Amplexador, when I brought it out to be retubed once, everybody was then talking about the Svetlana, the original Svetlana Russian tubes, St. Petersburg production ones. I think that's where they were made. And everybody was saying they were all the rage, and he goes, I don't really like them that much. And I'm like, really? Everybody says they're great. And he goes, well, listen to them compared to these EHs. I'll bias up your amp and we'll pop the EHs in, and I'll have an exact match set of the Svetlanas. We'll AB. And I was like, oh yeah, like the EHs sounded way more pleasing at high, when we're really driving the amp with the master up real high and it was good and loud. The way that the tubes overdrived, I preferred the EHs. They just sounded really cool. And I think they're basically kind of an RFT clone. Like, for those of you that know your tubes, the East German RFT tubes from back in the day that Marshall and a whole bunch of people used. I think they're kind of a clone of that tube. But anyway, they sound, they do sound really good. So, so I'll probably just get those in the SL68. Either that or I kind of want to try the EH60A7s. And then the other preamp tubes in that amp are, I've got an old Amperex in the V1 position, a Bugle Boy, which that's my favorite preamp tube. I'm not like super knowledgeable about this stuff, but I know a little bit, enough to be dangerous. Somebody said that this week. I like that. Enough to be dangerous. I've tried, different Mullards, but went through a phase where I was buying them all and popping them in and trying them and stuff. I like the Mullards and like Brimars and stuff, but the Bugle Boys, the kind of 60s Amperex Bugle Boys, the one with the little guy with the bugle on the side of the tube. Those are some of my favorites. So I've got one of those in V1, and then in V2 is a Mullard, I think, and then I've got a Sovtech LPS long plate in V3, and that could be the tube that is maybe bad and causing my woes. Either that or it's the power tubes, because I bought these old Teslas, and it can be kind of a crapshoot. Buying new old stock tubes, especially power tubes, off the internet, and preamp tubes, because they can just be noisy and stuff. Anyway, any review or opinion on the Supro 1970 RK? No, I don't know that amp, although I would love to try some of the Supro amps because I'm a big fan of the Bigtronic stuff, and I've heard that they're really good. Steve Stevens likes the Supro stuff. I know that. They sure look cool. And Ben says, make sure to give Pete a thumbs up. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Oh, boy, there's a lot of comments here. Sorry, guys. I'm always off in Rushland, and I don't know where to start. But maybe hit me up again with a question if you haven't. Just refresh the chat here. And let's see here. Here's an interesting one. Good looking honky says, Peter North here, old porn star, great educational stream. I have seen your movies, sir. That's true. Welcome. I didn't know you were a guitar player, but welcome. Welcome to my live stream. Vincent, my pal Vincent from the East Coast is in the house. He says Tungsol EL34s are a favorite. I've heard they're pretty good. I've heard they are pretty good. Dave Friedman tried those and said he liked them. I would love to try some different ones at some point. All the new production ones, make sure they are biased up and sound great, and just put them all in and A/B them all. Maybe record the results and stuff. I actually did a couple. It wasn't YouTube. Yeah, this was pre-YouTube, really. Back in like 2003, 2004, I remember doing like tube shootouts and putting the results up on the gear page where I would try different 12AX7s all in one amp and stuff and listen to them all and stuff. Anyway, let's see. John says AC30 supposedly sound great cranked to max volume to get good breakup. Example, Brian May. This is funny because I just recorded a Queen song yesterday for a session. I used my, you can see it right back there. It's the 1 amp you can see. Actually, it's my, right there. See that one? Back there. Divided by 13 RSA 31, which is basically a an old AC30 circuit. Anyway, you're saying, how would an AC30 sound with a reactive load and using the volume knob on the guitar to dial and break up? Well, that's exactly what I did yesterday. I had to record a version of We Are the Champions for, I believe it was for Adam Lambert to use for something. So I used that with the Unit 67, which has a Rangemaster style boost in it. And if you know your Brian May, you know, he used, you know, treble booster in front of the normal channel on an AC30 with the amp cranked. And then the treble booster attenuates low end and boosts upper mids and nails the front end of the amp and gives you that Brian May thing. Yeah, it would sound great. It would sound great with the reactive load with the right IRs. You just got to find an IR that you like. And should be really cool. I sort of think maybe not on 10 is 10 can, it depends on the amp, you know, and what tubes when you're talking about one of those amps, it's very tube dependent. AC30s, you know, they're temperamental beasts and they don't all sound the same and stuff. I've always wondered how Brian set his EQ on the amp too. You know, because the AC30 is a really weird EQ. The bass and treble controls are sort of super interactive and but anyway, it would sound just great, but you might want to run on an 8 or 7, you know, especially hitting it with the treble booster, depending on the pickups in your guitar. Those Burns pickups Brian had, they were probably not super hot output is what I'm guessing. I don't really know, but let's see here. More Guitars is in the top chat. Thank you, sir. And he says, Pete, loved your review of the Friedman Golden Pearl. Might it make its way onto your board? Seems like an enhancer to any amp. By the way, your amp sounded tits on that demo. Thank you. Yeah, that was just PT100. Interesting because I found it a little bright actually. And what happened was the first tube in my PT that I have here went bad, and I put a tongue sole in there. A lot of discussion about tubes today, just kind of out of the blue. But I put a tongue sole, you know, 12x7 in there, and then in listening back to the demo later, I was like, with the tone control settings I'm used to on the amp and stuff, it's a little strident sounding to me, to be honest. And I think it's that tube. Nothing, because it's like the normal settings. That's the one thing I changed, and they're known for having a real open top end. So probably you just have to recalibrate the controls on the amp and stuff. But anyway, thanks. I'm glad you liked it. You know, could be that tube, the sound of that tube you dug. Maybe it sounded a little more open than because that's kind of a big effect. You know, whatever's in the V1 or the print, not necessarily like a big effect, but it's definitely everything affects everything. And the tube that you use in the very first preamp tube position in your amplifier can have a significant impact. You know, like JJ's, for instance, are dark. They really sound like you put a little bit of a blanket over the amp. Now, I'm not really crazy about them, but people like them because they help to tame. They help to tame the top end. You know, on an overly strident amp, and also if you've got any kind of microphonic problems, they tend to they're pretty reliable. Those JJ12AX7s. You know, low noise and that kind of thing. But they sound a little flat to me. I kind of like the Chinese 12AX7 in my amps for new production tubes. Thoughts on the Gibson SG in general, says Metal Stage D. I love SGs. I have one. I don't think I've ever used it in a video. I don't know why it's been sitting in storage forever. I'm going to revisit it and see if I should sell it or maybe get another SG. I was looking at old SGs actually, like because they're still kind of affordable, like a 61 or 62, all the way up to maybe 63 or 64, and they these really great necks on them, and I kind of love those guitars. Almost like a really fast neck for a vintage guitar. They kind of have a fairly flat board and then a really kind of shreddy sort of neck on them. That's what I find with old SGs. It's a tone, you know, it's a plank mahogany. The only problem with them too can be the neck body joint on an SG can be kind of weak. So I find you get a lot of that when you move around, there's kind of tuning stuff, you know, because there's not a lot of wood there that's kind of joining them together. It's a notoriously weak spot on a guitar. The neck body joint on an SG is a little tough. So there's some thoughts on it, but I do love them. They sound great. I mean, Angus, obviously, you know. Let's see. Mark says, have you seen the pedals from Nanodog Audio based on clipping via carbon quantum tunneling technology produced in Edmonton? I did hear one pedal by them. Yeah, they sent me a pedal and I checked it out. I've been meaning to actually contact them to talk about it. Didn't really bond with that pedal, to be honest. It was one that I just was like, I don't know. I plugged it in. I wanted to really like it, but you know, I'd love to hear what else they're doing now and stuff. Maybe that was a little while ago. It was at least a year ago, if not more. See, Ramon says, can I explain the design of getting overdrive from preamp tubes, such as EVH, which has 7 tubes, versus a power amp, such as a Super Lead 100? Okay, so you're asking about new amps versus like preamp gain versus sort of more traditional like plexi amps. Well, the first thing is those new amps, they just have way more gain. Like no matter what, if you turn an old plexi up, or you know, an AC30 or whatever, they're not going to have the gain of a modern amp, even though you start distorting everything, you know, saturating the you know, to some degree, there's some output tube distortion going on with an old plexi or any of those amps. Mostly it's actually supposedly the phase inverter in old Marshalls, which is also part of the power amp, but it's a 12AX7 or preamp. It looks like, you know, it's in the preamp, but it's in the preamp, but it's in the power amp. I don't know. It's the tube that drives the power section. And that is supposedly the tube. Like if you put a post-phase inverter master volume in an old Marshall amp, which is a tube that comes after the phase inverter tube, it sounds much like you can use a master volume like that, as opposed to a traditional Marshall master volume, which would come before the phase inverter. When you turn down that kind of master volume, the distortion characteristics get, you know, it's like just preamp gain then. Post-phase inverter master volume, it's like, oh, it sounds like you're distorting the power amp. Well, that's because you're actually distorting, it's including the, you know, driving up. If you crank up the amp, you're driving the phase inverter tube into distortion. You're not driving the power tubes. You're driving that phase inverter tube that drives the power tubes. So it's interesting to take an amp like the SL68 or SL67 that has a great post-phase inverter master and listen to it or record it, you know, with the post-phase inverter master down, but the amp on 10, you know, but that's the only thing turned down. And then you record it with just the amp wide open with the phase inverter, post-phase inverter master all the way up. And then listen to them volume balance. Then you can really get an idea of exactly how much effect that master is having. It's pretty close. It does sound more saturated for sure with the post-phase inverter master cranked, but it's not nearly the difference as, say, with a, you know, JCM 800 style Marshall that has a pre-phase inverter style master and it's turned down. So there is something going on with, but most of that distortion is happening in the preamp, even on an old Marshall. Anyway, where was I going with this? Oh, but you're just asking the difference in distortion. So when the preamp gain, I'll tell you this much, like just from a kind of like almost a spiritual perspective, I feel like guitar players that you know, be it Eddie Van Halen or Brian May or, you know, anybody that came from back then, those signature tones were created with those non-master volume, sort of lowish gain amps. They didn't have a ton of distortion built into the preamps. There's not a lot of gain stages in them. And the tone came from volume and the whole amplifier being cranked up and kind of saturated. And it had a really unique quality. Now, the newer amps, of course, you can get a ton of saturation and sustain and stuff like that in the preamp. And my own amp, I mean, the PT is you know, most of the overdrive for sure is coming from the front end. There's something a little less magical about it. You know, obviously the issue, you know, think about the signature guitar tones that were created, right? Just with non-master volume amps, you know, be it everybody from Richie Blackmore to, you know, like I say, Eddie to, you know, AC/DC tones or whatever. That was old amps, not a lot of gain in the front end, cranked up loud, volume is a factor, speaker breakup is a factor. And guitar players had really unique signature tones. You can pretty much across the board, I would say, like with almost every guitar player that switched then later on to maybe a more modern, you know, style preamp gain amp, or new guitar players, it's a little more homogenized. I just think it is, you know, the tones. You can get more saturation and more sustain out of the preamp and all that, but it's a more homogenized kind of, the tones don't stand out as much to me as the old days, the way that people were doing things back then. So that's the main difference to me. Now, as far as the characteristic of that output, just I would say that if you wanted me to define the difference between preamp gain distortion and then saturating the power amp of an amp, and really just and at that point it's hard to tell what's going on because you're saturating speakers and you're saturating everything. Unless you're using a reactive load, I guess, or something like that, and there's no speakers involved. But it's just a bigger, brawnier. When you involve the whole amplifier, it's like this wide kind of like dynamic, big, brawny kind of distortion. I don't know how else to describe it. The preamp gain has this sort of just saturated, you know, front end thing. That's, I guess I could do it right now. Why don't we just do it? I got my amp hooked up, and there's nothing stopping me from cranking the snot out of the, because I'm running into the reactive load. I'm going to have to turn down. Okay, let's just do it. This is going to be interesting to see how close or not close. Just one sec here. I'm going to actually, okay, now I've turned off the effects loop in my amp. I don't want to clip the signal going into the recorder or whatever, the microphone I'm running. So I'm going to turn down the reactive load. Okay, so if I was to, hope you guys can still hear me okay. If I was to now bring the preamp gain on my amplifier up to 10, I almost never run it like this. If I'm going to get that much distortion, I usually hit it with a pedal. So I've got amp gain about here. That's as most as I ever use, basically, and then I hit it with a pedal for more. But anyway, this is the preamp distortion on 10. So let's turn that down now, and I'm going to bring the master up. See if the amp blows up or anything. Okay, now I'm going to have to turn down the reactive load level. So I am cranking the piss out of the amplifier right now. Do you hear the big broad kind of? Now as I turn it down, I'll try and balance the level back out. Right here, the sound get a little thinner. Okay, I'm turning down the reactive load, bringing the output of the amp way up now. We're just gonna go raw. I'll turn the amp down again. It's still pretty loud the way I've got it set right now. Bring the preamp gain up again and the output of the reactive load. Starting to clip the load a bit. So I'll turn the preamp gain volume down again, and the amp master up to like 8. Might be sounding a little distorted to you guys. I'm not amp distortion, but I just don't want to clip the input of the mic or something. So, maybe you can hear those differences. I'm not sure if it comes across or not in this kind of setting, but anyway, hopefully that made some sense. It has this, it just kind of goes like the output section of an old Marshall style amp, and it just has this big brawny. And when you roll the volume down on the guitar, it cleans up really fast. That's what I find with less gain stages in the front end. You get that glassy cleanup thing more, and it's just really dynamic. And then it roars when the preamp gain just sounds a little more, I don't know, just kind of homogenized or something. So to me, it's kind of like about striking a balance if you can. Yeah. All right. Well, that was fun. I guess it's cool. I had this setup going, so I could kind of answer the question with a demonstration. Okay. So I'm way back in the comments here. Somebody's asking if I can teach that double stop bendy thing that I always do. So I think yeah, I do probably do it too much, but a lick like that, right? So what you do is you bend one string up, and generally I do it on the B string. Right? And so what you do is you bend one note, and then let's say the D note on the 15th fret of the 2nd string, and it's up. And where my finger is, my 2nd finger is lying right there on the 14th fret by the A note. So on your way up, you bend this note, and you catch the G string on the way down with the other finger. So hope that makes sense. Pretty easy, really. Yeah, it's a cool lick. It's kind of a Joe Walsh thing. That type of stuff. He was the, kind of the first one I heard do that a lot, I guess. Can the GT200 be used direct box style without an amp? I believe that's the more preamp sim thing. Yeah, I think you can use it like that. You could just run it direct to record with the preamp sims. Let's see. Q-Stick says, you have talked about your Kemper in 110 being a great low volume solution. It does sound good. Yeah. Bedroom quiet. Yeah, sure. Bedroom. Yeah, you could use it at a bedroom level. Any chance we can hear it through a room mic one day? Yeah, I could do that next week or something. I could just have it going on through this mic if you wish. I'll try and remember that for next week. Send me a reminder somehow through Facebook or something like that to do that, but I could do that, no problem. Let's see. Gizzy Moto 6 is in the top chat. Yeah, thank you, sir, for being a part of that. He says, hey, Pete, I love your new UA signature amp. Thank you. I do, too. I'm wondering if actually try in the UA amp, too, since you have it. Try doing what I just did. Listen to the preamp gain and then crank the power section, because they really modeled it really well. I found it's like, whoa, it really changes as you turn up the master on the amp and sounds really similar to what I was just showing. Let's see. I'm wondering if you would recommend using the IRs in the plugin in conjunction with a surreactive load. Yeah, it totally works and it sounds great. Actually, something that I did was I ran the real amp into the reactive load and then into the plugin. And then I disabled the power amp and preamp in the plugin, and I just listened to the you know, you could just use it as an IR loader then. And this is a good thing to know if there's any UA people out there that use the UA Apollo interfaces. You can use like the Brainworks plugins as an IR. It's not a loader because you can't load your own speaker sims, but they're loaded up with IRs, their own ones that they made. And you just disable the preamp and power amp in the UA plugin. So now no amp sim is active, only the cabinet portion's active. And in that way, you can use the, you know, for almost, you know, zero latency kind of monitoring. It's not zero, but it's like 2 milliseconds. But yeah, you can totally do that. And it sounds great. So I was comparing then the modeled amp to the real amp, you know, just by plugging into the real amp, running into the plugin, using it for an IR loader, and then just running right into the, you know, I could directly AB and kind of record and stuff. And then, to be honest, it sounds amazing. The plugin is like, it's slightly more hi-fi sounding, but great and really similar. So it is a terrific plugin. Okay, Rockin' with Pete on Sunday. Yep, that's true. Oscillation Overdrive says Hendrix. I wonder if you mean that band. I guess Hendrix probably did do it a lot. I heard Joe Walsh, you know, it's in the Hotel California solo and stuff, and maybe that's just where I remember it from a kid, being a kid and hearing it mostly on the radio and stuff. Question for Pete: which program do you use to slow down, break down songs to learn a song? That's from Steve Roy. I really like Transcribe by Seventh String Media, I think is the company. It's about $49, I think, and it's something I bought, just cheap app you can buy, and it works great. I'm really used to using it. The nice thing with Transcribe is you can store, maybe you can do this in other phrase trainers, I'm not sure, but you can store loops. So like, let's say there's a section of a song like the solo you want to work on. You can, you know, draw, this shows you the waveform in the plugin. You can draw a little thing over the waveform and exactly loop the section you want to practice over, and then you can store that. And, you know, you come back to it later that week or whatever, you just call up your loop again, and you can, you know, then you can go back to practicing your thing. And with Transcribe, you can slow stuff down as much as you want, you know, all the way down to, you know, 20% of the original or whatever. You know, you just slow it down a lot, and it keeps the pitch the same and all that, of course. And you can also change keys, so, and tune the track. So let's say the track is not quite in tune with your guitar and you don't want to bother retuning your whole guitar up to the song you're trying to learn. You can simply just fine tune the track to whatever your guitar is tuned to, like, you know, all the way, you know, do it minor third if you want or whatever, or just fine tune in synths. So that's really nice. It makes learning stuff a lot easier for me. Let's see. Tone Hunter is saying, hey, thoughts and tips on trying expensive guitars, Sirs and Andersons, and not letting yourself think it's good just because it should be. Yeah. How do you know when something is worth it? Yeah, that's a great, I mean, so with my first Sir, what I noticed when I plugged it in was it rang like crazy. And also I sat down and played it and it felt very comfortable to me. And the other thing was I played it for 45 minutes when I first sat down with it and I didn't tune. And I remembered later, like, wait a minute, I never even tuned this guitar and it's still in tune 40 minutes later. It arrived in tune and was still in tune. And I was like, that's a lot of indications of a good guitar, you know? If you're not feeling the magic though, you know, you should pick it up and just go, oh yeah. I mean, it was like that the first time I got my Yaren too. I was, you know, terrified I was going to get that guitar because I, you know, bought it and had sort of commissioned it to be built sight unseen. And when I opened the case, I was like, oh man, it's gorgeous, you know? And then I picked it up and it was like, holy shit, the neck and everything. It was just like, and then I plugged it in and it was like, this is magic. So, you got to have that feeling. It's like you should know like almost instantly if it's really your deal and moving you, know, or not. So let's see here. Patrick says, hey, Pete, like the new album, how do you deal with different guitar pickup outputs on your board so that you get consistent volume out? I actually don't worry about that too much. Kind of if I'm switching guitars, it probably is to get different output. That's kind of the way I look at it. But I do have a compressor. So for instance, you know, I've got an overdrive sound dialed up right now, and I'm too lazy to turn around and hit the clean channel. But I could show you, you know, you can hear on my guitar a pretty big difference between the output of the, so that's going from the bridge humbucker to the inside coils of the two pickups split. And if I'm doing that in, oh, I've got an overdrive pedal on so I can clean it up more. Right, if I'm going to go to that, I might hit this compressor. So then that's going to bump up the level and kind of pump up the tone a little bit. I've got an Wamp or Ego Comp on my board. So I guess in that way I can kind of even out levels if I want to. But I enjoy the different tones and outputs of the different guitars. I don't try and make everything sound the same. I like, you know, if I go to a Strat, I want it to be different and maybe cleaner and stuff. Sir Corso Amp, says Craig. Sorry, I think your name. My eyes are getting so bad, you guys. Or either that or I think I need to go to the doctor and get a different prescription. Anyway, you're saying Sir Corso Amp. Any idea why John discontinued it? Poor sales, reliability, parts availability. I don't see any mention of the Corso on the Sir site. You know, I don't want to speak for John, that's for sure. I think because I got that original Corso and I made a video with it, and I love that little amp. I think people were maybe confused about what it was. Like the look sort of didn't resonate with people or something. Like maybe they didn't know, what is this thing? Like, what do I, can I, is it? I think people like things sometimes to look familiar. If it's a Fender amp, they like it to look like a Fender. If it's a, you know, they have a problem like maybe like when something looks too different and they don't know what to expect, especially if they're buying it sight unseen. I don't know. It's just my opinion. So maybe it was that with the Corso. They had a lot of trouble with the, they wanted it to have that unique look, and it kind of looked like a piece of Danish furniture or something, right? With the, but they had, that was a complicated engineering process, getting those to the tops for the amp and everything to, and I don't know. It just seemed like maybe it was it's a great little amp, but for whatever reason, maybe just, you know, the look didn't resonate with people or something. I don't know. I think it looks cool, but yeah. I'm going to attribute it mostly to maybe people just didn't know what they were getting into if they were going to buy one. And so it maybe what doesn't resonate as much as something that looks like something familiar. Contacted Sir regarding the new Wilkinson bridge, and each time they say it's still in R&D. I have your signature guitar and looking forward to the new bridge, but they're probably going to ban me. No, that's from David. No, I think it's basically we're kind of rolling it out now, like starting to, they've come up with a way to sort of transition from the 510 to the new bridge. And so you might ask Don, hit up Don at Sir and say, hey, what's going on? Pete was mentioning on his live stream that you guys are coming up with a plan. And you know, I've expressed that I would like it to happen as soon as possible, but that's just coming from my end. They got their own sort of business concerns. I have one on this guitar now. There it is. So I've got one on two different. Stays in tune so great. I love it. Let's see. Is there a big difference between Gibson 57 Plus and the Sir Thornbucker Plus? Yeah, I think there probably is. Number one, I think the 57 are 57s Alnico 2 magnets. I think they are. So it's going to be, and they're balanced coils. I know that. So they don't have they're not a bad sounding pickup. The 57 Classic is not a bad sounding pickup. It's probably going to be a little sort of a flatter, warmer sound, a little less like single coily character, that, for lack of a better term, that my pickup has. Because I know they're balanced coils, which my pickup isn't. It's slightly unbalanced coils. Let's see. Jimmy says, hope you're having a lovely day. I am. I'm hanging with you guys. I hope you're having a lovely day too. Stoked to be here with you all. 391 people online. That's awesome. It's about 11:52 a.m. And I'm happy with that. Okay, what else we got here? Just kind of randomly in the chat. What's my favorite telly? Well, I really only have one. And I love, I'll play my tele for you if you want. Let me grab it. It's right here. I got too many guitars in here right now. I'm moving soon, and as well as organizing and setting up my new studio. So there's a lot of change. There's a lot of guitars in here right now. But anyway. Oop! I forgot I had the guitar tuned when I did the We Are the Champions thing yesterday. I played this guitar actually, and I tuned half the guitar up to F to play the last few licks because I needed another fret. So I've got the D, G, B, and the E strings tuned up. This guitar just sounded the most appropriate for the track. I don't have a Brian May guitar. There we go. I love this guitar. Great sounding neck pickup for a Tele, I think. You know, it's got kind of almost a stratty kind of neck pickup. The pickups in the guitar are Ron Ellis. So this is a 66, and you know, it's got some wear on it for sure, but really generally in pretty great shape. It was refretted when I got it, and other than that, it's all original. But the neck pickup has a little short. The original neck pickup had a little short in it, and the bridge pickup, as they tend to do from this era, the bass plate can warp on them, and then they get very, very microphonic. And so it sounded good, but a little on the weak side, but it sounded good, and would ring like crazy at any kind of live. So it's like, well, this isn't going to work. So what I did was at a shop in Tokyo, they had the other thing was it had the original, you know, kind of cap that Leo for some reason decided to put on Teles, which when you used this position, it would you used to not be able to get the middle position on a Tele. So traditional Tele wiring would be bridge, neck, or neck with this crazy cap on it that was all super duper dark. Like kind of, I think he was thinking that you would use it to play sort of faux bass. That's as the story goes. But of course, the middle position on a Tele is magical, so you want to be able to get that. So what I did was I left all the original electronics intact, and I had the shop in Japan that had all NOS switch, pots, wire, everything, make me a Tele control, you know, from the same era. So I pulled out the original electronics, and these are all period correct, but replacement pots and switch and wire. And Ron Ellis made me a set of pickups. So these are his 50-60 pickups, I think they're called, with a middle tall neck pickup, and they sound amazing. The guitar sound better, like way better when I put these pickups in it. Sounded good before, but better with his pickups. And now it's not microphonic. And so I have the original pickups and original electronics if I ever wanted to sell the guitar. But anyway, this just works out great. And I love the tone of this guitar. Yeah. Weird, I think I maybe broke this cable or it's the jack on the guitar. That ain't good. Damn guitars. Anyway. Okay. For the remainder here, I'm just going to turn down the guitar. I'm not going to play guitar anymore. I'm just going to answer questions and stuff. What's the JCM 800 in a box pedal? I'll use it with a Fender 68 Custom Deluxe. That's a Custom Deluxe Reaver. That's a great pedal amp. I typically use the custom basement channel. I would try the Riot Mini. Great for what you want. Through that amp, it's going to sound killer. JCM 800 kind of tones. Awesome. Scott says, just purchased a Bad Cat Cub 40R amp in combo format, and I'm absolutely loving it. Awesome. I like Bad Cat amps for sure. The whole matchless Bad Cat thing. Good tones. What else we got? What else we got? Oh, somebody just bought a Corso in a 112. Love it so far. Yeah, it's a great little amp. The Corso, it sounds great. You know, there's no doubt about it. Ted says, save your eyes and use browser magnification. Yeah, I should probably do that. You're right. Does Google Chrome have that? I should be looking in the preferences, but I'm not going to bore you with that now. I'll just suffer. Love my Corso, says Mike. Recording Central, that's what it is. Yeah, it's a great little, you know, it's got a load built in, and you can take just the 1/4 inch right out of it and plug it in your recorder, and you got this little amp that looks like a cool little piece of furniture, and it's awesome. Really is a great little amp. Let's see. What studio headphones would you recommend for recording and mixing kind of on a budget? Well, I use these. These are Sony 7506s. Some people might not like these. I got so used to them that I really like them. They're kind of on the bright side. They sound a little hyped in the top end, but I know exactly how to mix on them. I know like exactly what they should sound like, which is all that really matters. You know, Audio-Technica makes some nice ones too, kind of in the same price range. These are under $100. I think they're like $99 in most places. So sorry if I missed, but any update on your new locking bridge, says Tom. If anybody's got any questions about it, send an email to Don at Sir, D-O-N at Sir.com, and Don will tell you what is happening, how we're kind of dealing with. He's dealing with the changeover, and if anybody would like to maybe try and procure one if they've got, you know, a Sir. Somebody's asking me how I insure my gear. There's a company called Heritage that does music insurance. It's really good. I would recommend them. There's some companies that kind of specialize in, you know, instrument insurance. You know, so don't think that your standard home owner's insurance or whatever covers stuff, especially if, you know, or car, you know, sometimes they've got all kinds of clauses, but if you get a separate policy for your gear, it should be covered, you know, whether it's in your studio or at home or anywhere. That would be best. How do I run the Schaefer replica? Do you run the Schaefer replica always in your chain? No, I don't, but it's great. It is really cool. And I do want to actually, in my new studio space, have that thing so that it's maybe on a patch bay, so that I could just plug into it really easily if I want to patch it in, because it does sound really cool. Scott says, hearing protection, important subjects. I just purchased Eargasm high fidelity earplugs. I may have custom fitting ones made in your future. Opinions on ear protection. I have some of the Westone, you know, with 9 dB and 15 dB filters, and I can switch them out. They work cool. They sound great at concerts and stuff. You know, but there's all these new ones that are kind of generic ones. I'm sure that those ones probably work good. Do you like them? I don't know. I don't know if I'd really like. I don't think the Westone ones sound that amazing or whatever. Maybe the ones you've got are good enough. You know, maybe you don't need to spend the money for the custom molds. Will you put the new Ecstasy Blue pedal on your pedal board? Probably sometimes. Yeah, I think actually I probably would, because you just made me think of it. For some things, I've got space for that pedal now, and I do love the pedal. And the one reason that I didn't use the blue on my new big board was the size. So yeah, it does work great for. I mean, you heard it in the video I did if you watched it, I guess, and it's got a great. It's got a terrific tone. Like, really sounds plexi-ish to me. David says, still in R&D, according to Sir. I don't know. I'll ask John. I would really love to just, if it's up to me, I would hurry that process along. So I'll mention that you were asking me on my live stream. I'll say, what's going on with this? Like, I think that's kind of over the next 3-4 months, they're planning on doing the thing. So just try and be a little bit patient with them. But, you know, the issue is it's like, they need to figure out a way, if there's, you know, customers that want it, or if there's dealers that already have guitars, they need to figure out how are we gonna, you know, if they'd like to get one, if this, so it's just kind of a little bit of a process. I suppose I'm a bit of a pain in the ass because I want to make a running change, and then there's business concerns with, you know, and you don't have people upset, and it's like, you know, and I'm like, well, it's my signature guitar and I want it the way I want it. That's always my perspective on it, but I respect their concerns too. So it just takes a minute to figure out how to do it. And not that the 510 is a bad bridge anyway, you know. This isn't going to be a huge, at the end of the day, this bridge isn't going to be a huge deal to put on. You know, it's a drop-in replacement. It's not like getting a Floyd or something where you got to drill or route, that kind of thing. And I don't really think they're asking that much for it. I don't think it's going to be that expensive. So anybody that kind of wants to get a hold of one, I think it's just give it a few more months, and I'm sure the process will be coming along. I will mention to them to have a little bit more to tell you guys. If you've got one of my guitars, then it's still in R&D. I'll try and get them to give you a timeline or an answer. I think that's only fair if you're interested in it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. David's in the top chat, and he's saying that. Yeah. So I'll ask them to come up. I'll ask John to personally kind of come up with a can they possibly come up with a better answer than that sort of generic answer for you guys that have, you know, plunked down your hard-earned cash for the guitar and would like to get one. I'd like to have a time. I'd like to have a timeline and a plan that they can convey to you, so you know exactly what to expect. Is that a divided by 13 head in the background, says Scott. Always wanted one of those, one of the few boutique amps I have not purchased yet. Yeah, it's a RSA 31. So it's the Rusty Anderson AC30 style amp. And I've had it for ages, since 2005, probably, maybe, yeah, something like that. I've had a few divided by 13 amps. FTR 37, RSA 31, JJN 5100. I had the LDW 1739. Isn't it amazing? I remember all those names. My mind. Still there. Still got it. The LDW is a great sounding kind of 50-watt Marshall thing that I used for a little while. I like that amp. My favorite probably, though, is this one, the RSA 31. That you know, Tim Pierce's favorite amp is a RSA 23, which is a really interesting kind of unique amp. I think it's got a Class A KT88. Dual KT8 88 power section, 23 watts, something like that. And it's the amp that he uses the most, as far as I know, at home when he's tracking. He loves it with pedals and stuff. Mike says he's playing with the Torpedo Wall of Sound plugin. What's your take on the proprietary format versus non? I have a lot of IRs that aren't compatible. Yeah, I don't really use Wall of Sound that much. I love the two-note stuff. I think they make great stuff. I'm kind of with you. Like, as far as I just want to use what I want to use for IRs, you know. But people, I'm sure they've got their devoted followers and folks that use that as their main sort of speaker simulation solution. I just kind of, yeah, I don't know. I like the Celestion ones, and I like Simone hammers and stuff, and I want to be able to use those. But you can't load those in there, huh? I didn't know that. Or maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's not what you're saying. Maybe you can. But anyway, Eddie Van Hendricks says he picked up a EVH 5150 chorus, using it in the front end of my amp. The pedal was noisy, switching artifacts. In your demo, did you run it with an instrument level front end or line? I just tried to match. I tried to do unity gain, however I was using, because I think in my memory of using, I used it in a couple different ways. I used it both post and in front of the amp for, like, when I played Panama with it, I think I ran it in, well, not Panama. When I played Pretty Woman with it, I think I ran it in front of the amp. And for some of the other stuff, I ran it post and split into stereo. I didn't really have problems with noise. So you're saying when you hit the switch, it makes like a clunking sound or something? Just roll with it, dude. Don't worry about it. Nobody will care. And the drummer's bashing away, and the bass player and the singer's going, whoa! Excuse me. It's not going to be a problem. Hey, Pete, how many OD pedals on your current board? I can count. 1, 2, 3. Is a fuzz count? 4, if so. I'm going to go with 4. That's usually what I have. I usually have I use a Jan Ray a lot for like a low gain kind of thing, Tweety kind of thing. And then right now I've got a TWE1 from Ethos on there for my kind of ampy plexi sort of. It's supposed to be train wrecky, but that kind of distortion, a little bit more gain. And then I've got a Klon style, the Archer, and I got a Hyper Fuzz. Those are my drives that I got right now. Can I talk about the creambacks a bit? The Neo creambacks. So that's from an old guy. Yeah. Well, they're really light, first of all, because they're Neo. So there's a few different types of magnets for speakers: ceramic, alnico, and now neodymium, which is a much lighter type of magnet. And I found out from the Celestion guys, when you make a speaker using a Neo magnet, you almost have to re-engineer a bunch of other stuff because it doesn't sound the same. You can't just switch the magnet and then expect the speaker to sound the same. It doesn't work that way. So there's other factors that you have to take into account when you're using a Neo speaker. So they've made the speaker called the Neo Creamback. That is their sort of trying to do a greenback thing, but with the Neo magnet, which is really lightweight, and it's a fairly high power speaker. Well, not high power, but it's like the speaker will handle at least 50 watts, I think. So double what a greenback will. Maybe it's even more than that. It might be 65. I can't remember. But anyway, so the Neo Creamback, very, very light. And when I was at Celestion a while back, they showed me 3 speakers all in 112s. I think I was playing through it. They had a 5150, the little one, the 50-watt head. So I was playing that kind of with a Marshall-y kind of channel 2 setting. And I was listening to a 112 with a greenback, a 112 with a M65 creamback, and a 112 with the Neo creamback. And my favorite was the Neo creamback at all 3 of those. It sounded like the greenback, but a little more worn in, like a little older, like it had a little bit of age on it. And it was like, that speaker sounds great. It was cool. And I was blown away to find out it was the Neo. And so at that point, I was like, you guys send us a couple of those at SIR so that we can try them, because there's huge weight. The speakers weigh like half of what a regular speaker does. And as most of you guys know, probably the weight of your cabinets is largely the magnets on the speakers. So anyway, I want to do a 212 and try those speakers and see how they sound. But it sounds like a nice greenback to me. That's my memory of it there. Of course, I want to hear it again and try it in different settings and stuff like that, and with my own amp. But I was really knocked out with the way it sounded. Tylenol says, why do I think new Les Pauls are so overpriced? There's better single cutaway guitars like Nags that make better quality. It depends, I guess, what you're talking about, which Les Paul, because the prices are so all over the map, whether we're talking about a USA line Gibson or a historic. I don't really find that like 57 historics and 58 historics and stuff, I don't really think those guitars are overpriced for what they are. If you find a good one, you see them for fairly reasonable for what it is, reasonable prices. I'm really rooting for Gibson right now. I mean, it looks like they got a cool new president that likes guitar and is whatever, he was the head of Levi's and stuff for a long time. Looks like a cool guy. Looks like a rocker. I don't know. And all their social media that I've seen happening recently is really cool looking. Like they post really great looking guitars now. So I think somebody took over that at least gets it and goes, get rid of all the weird shit and just give people the beautiful guitars that they're expecting to see from Gibson. That's what I'm seeing via their social media and stuff. And it really looks like they're, so let's all hope that, that they it's an iconic company. I hope that dude is the right choice. I saw a picture recently of my friend Andy Alt and Jared from another pal of mine from the Saturday Night Live guitarist. And they were hanging with them, and looked like they're having a good time. I don't know where they were, but anyway, it was on social, IG or whatever this week, and he looked like a cool guy. So I hope it all goes well. Sorry, everyone, for non-guitar question. That's from Tom. You obviously eat healthy, juice you drink, and a big exercise guy. Are you a big exercise guy? I find necessary for my health. Well, I'm older, you know, I'm no kid. So it's like, I gotta, you know, once you get over 40, it's like, you better watch what you eat and stuff like that. Cause it's all downhill from here. Never be younger than I am right now. So yeah, I think it's a good idea for sure. And I just, not only do I feel better physically if I've been slacking off a little bit, actually, I'm going to the gym, but I feel better physically if I go. I feel better mentally. It clears my head and makes it, I find it easier to do work, and I sleep better, you know. So let's see here. I'm definitely a fan of taking care of yourself. Steve says, love the live stream and your amps in the zone. Thank you. I realized I'm a bigger fan of 6L6s. I have a JCM 800 EL34 and Carbon X100B with 6L6s, and the X100 is actually absolutely huge. Thoughts? Like huge sounding or huge in size? They are a big head. Nothing stopping you from trying 6L6s in your... Why don't you try in your JCM 800 some 6CA7s, like the JJs or the EHs? It's kind of a cross between a 6L6 in tone and an EL34 to me. Try the 6CA7s. Sort of maybe slightly less sort of mid forward, a little bit bigger bottom end, all that kind of stuff that a 6L6 does. When talking speakers, this is from Scott. He says he's really been digging Celestion V-type speakers. I agree. They're good. They're the one that they chose for the Cerebella. It's a reasonably priced speaker, and it sounds to me like a cross between a Greenback and a V30, like a slightly warmer V30. I think V-types are good speakers. Talk about some of the specs of your new Sur Classic that's being built. Bridge, pickups, radius, color. I'm having it built. I want a kind of a candy apple red situation, like maybe metal flake or candy apple, kind of like light aging. And the neck is going to be a digitized version of my old Jackson from the 80s, which is a bolt-on neck, that classic kind of 80s Charvel. So it's that D neck kind of, and it's a 16 radius, I think, all the way down, quite flat, great big frets. I'm going to give that a go on it. And then I'm going to put the new bridge that I'm digging, Thorn Bucket Plus in the bridge, and then 2 V60 LP style pickups, and then neck and middle, tortoiseshell pickguard. It's going to be cool. The candy apple red and the tortoiseshell. And, you know, covered humbucker in the bridge, cream covers on the singles. I think it's going to look hip. Did I just say hip? Dude, did you just plop in the new speaker, or did you have to do anything else? Oh, that's two guys talking amongst themselves. Old guy and old metal dude are chatting. Your review of the Source Audio Ventress sold me on it. The demo made me wonder if you have original music. Yes, sir, I do. That's from Craig. I have 2 albums out, Guitar Nerd and Pete Thorn 2. And they're both on iTunes and Spotify, although I hate Spotify. The CDs are available if you're still a CD kind of person from cdbaby.com. Yep. And it's everywhere. It's in the Amazon Music Store and all that kind of stuff. Anywhere you can find. It's on YouTube Music. You can stream. I prefer you don't stream. Better to buy. Your review of the... Oh, sorry. That was the one that I just read. Pete, I just finished watching the Lightning Boy compressor, saving for one. Great job. Thanks. Yeah, that's like the dual 12AX7 jobby, right? I think. Okay, moving up. Try and find some more questions here. I think we're all rooting for Gibson, says Mike. Wouldn't buy a $3,000 guitar that won't stay in tune. Could be on the road to recovery. There's some tricks you can do to keep Les Pauls in tune. The nut is the most important thing, having a properly cut nut, and then also using some stuff that does like the Big Ben's style stuff in the nut. I can keep a Les Paul in tune pretty good. I can. But you got to have the nut done right. Tim Pierce did a review a while ago of this thing called the String Butler, which is kind of like, I think it goes where the truss rod cover would go on a Les Paul, and then it's got these rollers or something that kind of fan the strings out to the, and he seem to think it helped keep the guitar in tune a lot better. So that could be useful. Or you just buy a Sorora, which has straight string pull. Something's happening with my phone. Sorry. Did you ever decide on a new pick and string gauge? Still just using the picks that's from Q-Stick. So I'm using 9. I've got some news about strings, but I can't actually, it's like going to be a NAMM thing, so I can't really talk about that yet. But I am digging the 9.5 gauge strings right now. And I'll tell you NAMM what's going on with that. But 9.5s are, I tried a guitar with 10s the other day, and I go, I'm just a wimp. Picks, I'm still just using the same Altex 73s. I got a 2016 Les Paul Standard, says RC Dad. Sultan's Swing, no tuning problems, rocks with the Marshall and V-type speaker. Yeah, if you get a good one, they're great. They're just a little hit or miss, you know, and then you got to, I would say always get a great tech to look at the nut on a new Gibson guitar. It's crucial. 6L6 is not really suited for ACM 800 CIS from an electrical point of view, but they lack all of the mids you want to hear from Marshall. I think Eddie Van Halen disagrees with you, but, you know, I don't know. That's just me. I like the 6CA7, the EHs in a Marshall circuit. I think it sounds good. It's all up to interpretation, you know. And then you hit it with a pedal or something and everything changes. So, you know. Any update on the new PT amp? I'll show you a teaser. Let me go on my pictures here on my phone. I was going to post this the other day and I didn't, but now I'll show this. There's the back panel. It's happening. It's happening. NAMM. That's all I can say. Got to leave some stuff out open to. It's got to be fun. We got to keep the mystery. But it's coming. It'll come out at NAMM unless something blows up and there's some sort of drastic, horrible thing that happens that sets us back. But I don't foresee that happening. Let's see here. Neraw says, "Hey Pete, I recently got a Mint 95 American Standard Strat and intended to keep it fully stock, but had to get it refretted because of minor humps on the fretboard." Has that happened to you before? Yeah, I've had a Strat with a kind of, you know, sometimes you get a guitar and the neck is straight on one side and then the other side will have a rise on one part. I hate that shit. Like, do you just sell the guitar or what do you do? Try and plane the neck? Because then does it happen again? You know, it's like, but yeah, I've had it happen. It's unfortunate. I mean, I guess you already went through it. Maybe it's going to be maybe it's going to be fine now. You know, had to get it refretted. So I wonder if when they pulled the frets, if they planed the fingerboard and then no, it's cool. Hopefully it is. It's a lot of expense to go through, right? It's kind of takes the magic out of getting a new guitar to me or a used guitar when you get it and you realize you got to do that stuff, you know, but it can happen. You're missing football, says Vibra Steve. Sorry, dude. Well, it's okay. You can go if, you know, I'm going to go soon too. Anyway, in about probably 15 minutes, I'm going to hang in here for a bit. Warehouse Veteran is also very good, in my opinion, for open backs. Yeah, the Veteran was meant to be a kind of a V30, but with if you guys have never tried the Warehouse Veteran, a V30 with less upper mid spike, so that can be a good thing. How do you gain stage your AX Helix? What's the AX? Sorry, I don't. That's from Robo Channel. Sorry, I just don't understand the question. But AX Helix, I don't know what that means. But you can tell me, and I'll attempt to answer. I will. Zach says, when you were on tour and playing someone else's music, is there anybody that you've looked at differently since learning their riffs? Yeah, sure. I mean, you always gain more appreciation for somebody, even if it's not somebody that you liked before. When you actually sit down and learn their stuff and go, oh, this is cool. You always find something that you like. Definitely, you know, playing with Henley and learning all the Eagles stuff, and, you know, different, you know, the Joe. I probably, I guess, I gained my Joe Walsh appreciation from playing with Don, and because I had to play the Joe role and learn a lot of his licks, and that's when I really got an appreciation for how unique he is, and how he doesn't play fast, he doesn't, you know, but he's so musical, and all of his riffs really resonate, and you remember them, you know, his solos, and, you know, be it Funk 49 or his solo in Hotel California. It's so saucy, you know, like, and with a lot of heart and soul put in it. Life in the Fast Lane, you know, learning all that stuff, as well as like Dirty Laundry, that he played that solo on Don's, and that always trips me out. Like, how did he come up with that? Like the weird atonal kind of tritone licks that he does in it, and the delay bouncing back. You know, it's such a unique. Well, the song's unique. When you think about Dirty Laundry, it's like a amazing lyric. By the way, I'll tell you a great story. I remember doing a you call them a corporate, you know, where you do a gig for a corporation, you know, and they hire a band or whatever to come in, and Henley does those things sometimes. And so we went and did a corporate for a big healthcare thing. I don't know what the company was, but anyway, there was a lot of big people in this room. You know, powerful people with a lot of money. It was in New York. It was at, like, I can't remember the hotel. It might have been Waldorf Astoria or something, you know, beautiful hotel in a ballroom. And, you know, it's generally like people sitting down, eating dinner and stuff. And then there's a little party afterwards, and you play, you know, and they'll have, you know, some big name play. So anyway, we were playing there with Don, and Rupert Murdoch was there, Fox News, right? And Rupert Murdoch was in the back of the room, and we went into Dirty Laundry second, I think. And Don introduced the song. He said, "This one's for Mr. Murdoch." I was like, "Oh, that's gangster. That's cool." I loved it. But anyway, Dirty Laundry, yeah, amazing sounding. You know, with the weird, you know, sort of synth stuff going on and drum machines and stuff. It was obviously like, it's very 80s sounding, but it's really cool. Like, I love the production on that song, and two great guitar solos from Steve Luther and Joe Walsh. So Joe plays the first one, Luke plays the last one, and it's what a cool song. Like, I always love playing that song, and the lyrics are killer, you know, and more poignant than ever. That's the mark of good art, right? When you write Dark Side of the Moon or Dirty Laundry, it's just like, and it still resonates, you know, maybe even more than ever. Okay. Nice to see this live, says Andrew. I now have the Headrush pedal board thanks to your video, and very happy. Cool. Is there anybody you would like to have played with, or would still like to play with? Well, all kinds of people. Yeah, I mean, you know, when the opportunities come along, you don't really necessarily see it coming, you know. And then somebody says, "Hey, so and so's putting a band together. They're interested," and, you know, and you're like, and you start to think about it. Go, "Oh, I never thought about playing with that person, or can I envision doing that?" You know, and it's always interesting, you know. And then you might get the gig or not, and all of a sudden see yourself in that role, you know. I saw Phil Collins a while ago, and you know, I'd love to play with him. I know Daryl's been his guitar player forever, you know, but that would be fun to play some of that. You know, I love Daryl's amazing. He was great at the gig. I saw him at the Forum, but I love a lot of that, you know, that old Genesis and stuff like that, and some of his solo stuff, you know. That'd be neat. I don't know, but I don't really, to tell you the truth, the thing that I'm most enjoying right now is doing my own thing and kind of moving forward with. There's a part of me that sort of got, I don't want to say boredom, but it's just like you hit a point where it's like, well, I'm really enjoying just writing songs and doing my own thing now. And as I get older, rather than learning other people's songs and going on tour, it's a great thing. I love it, and I want to keep doing it for sure. But you do spend I've spent a lot of my life on the road already. And I'm not sure if anybody even, you know, I thought it was funny the other day when somebody posted some kind of negative comment on one of my YouTube videos and said, "Oh, he's just a YouTuber." And then, fuck, man, it's like, I've been doing this since, you know, like I've been on the road like steadily for like 20 years. You know, YouTube's just kind of a new thing almost, even though I've been doing it like 10 years, kind of almost seriously. But you know, to the 22 years, 20, you know, maybe something like that of touring. You know, there's a lot of time out of town and being out on the road on a bus and traveling around playing other people's music. Kenny says the video is weird. If you're having issues with the video, just refresh your page. I don't know. I don't know why it would be weird. Seems it's. Somebody says the lower fourth of the screen is green hash. I don't know. Maybe I see a little drop off in people watching, so maybe the video got screwed up towards the end. I don't know how to fix it. I have no clue. Hopefully it's hopefully still working. Okay, so Mike says he has several basses that were plecked. The necks and the frets are excellent. Would like to hear Pete's take on that for guitars. I've had a couple guitars plecked. Sir plecks a lot of guitars, I think, still. I still feel like and I've talked with John about this. I feel like a person that's amazing doing your frets is still the best thing for the guitar. The pleck was all the rage for a minute, but I do still think that you know, I still like somebody to do mine. That's what I feel. You know, that's like a great person giving that individual attention to the frets is still I don't know. I still would rather have that happen than a computer, I think. Somebody's saying on the PT100 amp or PT50, some new PT amps, are you planning on keeping the channel 1 crunch option? I'm not really, actually. I think we're going to move away from that because the reason is it's just the same as actually cranking up it's just the crunch is basically, there's a built-in sort of attenuation. Like, so in other words, when you hit the crunch switch, you're switching out that attenuation and bumping up the input. So by just turning up the preamp gain, you can get kind of the similar effect to the crunch switch, to be honest. So it just seems like an extraneous thing to me. So I was planning on not having that actually. Because I just didn't use a lot. If I want more gain, I'll just turn up the volume more turn up the gain. Sykes amps, Kill Friedman. It's clean as a whistle. What does that mean? I'm sure John Sykes would be happy to play through Friedman amps. He'd sound great through them. John just used mainly, well, I guess he used Boogie Mark II Cs, right? Pluses. And he also is known for using those JCM 800 plexis, like the plexi circuit, you know, the 4-input JCM 800. You'd see him with those. But I'm not sure what else he did, actually. And by the way, I love John Sykes. He's an incredible guitar player. And I love his kind of, he's just got that great quasi, you know, or sort of like, you know, quintessential European guitar thing, you know, like when you think of Michael Schenker and, you know, and John Sykes, I don't know, I put him in the same kind of like, or even Gary Moore, you know, like they have this distinctly sort of, you know, they come from the other side of the pond sort of sound. And he's just a great, I love his aggressive, you know, and amazing singer and songwriter too. I like his music, the stuff that he wrote for Blue Murder, and it's great. I wish he'd do more now, to be honest. So I'm just a fan. What cam am I using for the video feed? Just the internal camera on my Mac. Sorry if the video screwed up. I don't know. Just open another tab and listen to it as a live podcast. Yeah, I guess you could do that. If it's screwed up, I'm sorry. I don't know what to do. Can I compare the Golden Pearl pedal to another? The Stevens Rocket pedal. Probably similar in some ways to the overdrive circuit, because it's kind of a flat sounding overdrive to me, like flat mids, and so is the J Rocket Stevens pedal, unless you boost the mids with the EQ. What amp do you use the Celestion Neo Cream back in? Well, I haven't tried it yet. with any of my amps. So that's next. I got to go out at some point and load those in cab. And let's see. Fellow Canadian, says Chris. Just wonder what you thought about the different TV Jones pickups. I only have one guitar with a TV Jones, but it sounds cool. It's my Tressart. And I got a TV Jones in the neck of that, I think, is what's in it. I just put the Powertrons in my 59 Duo Jet. Yeah, I mean, they... what do you think of it? Do they sound better than the standard pickups that whatever was coming in the Gretsch that you had? Was it an improvement? What do you think about the new amp plugins? Do they are really amps? Well, mine I feel is because I can compare it directly to my amp. So I think I nailed my amp. Actually, it's kind of getting really good. There's no doubt about it. And the PT100 plugin is totally kick ass. I love it, actually. It's really fun because I can just leave it on, you know, like open up a channel in my Apollo or whatever and just leave it on all day and then kind of put the guitar down, come back and just wake the computer up and start playing without having to turn anything on. Like, you know, something about turning a tube amp on and off and it's going to warm. There's none of that. You just leave it on and then pick up the guitar and continue playing with that tone. It's like really cool. So just so easy. Let's see. Finally ordered my Helix Stomp, says Brad. Watched your video several times. Very informative. Thanks. Yeah, the video I did for Guitar Center, I said, we just want you to come and play through the thing and just be really honest. Like, just plug it in and see what you can come up with. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And that's what we did. And it, you heard, you know, I was only there for an hour and a half or something and seemed to work great, you know. Okay, I'm down kind of in the bottom of the chat now. If anybody wants to, if I didn't get to your question, just hit me up now. And Ben says he's talking to old guy, but he's east of Toronto, got a bunch of family in Edmonton. Me too, man. Almost Edmonton folks. Do you ever get mistaken for Josh Brolin? No, that doesn't happen. But I've heard some people say they think I look like him recently. Which isn't a bad thing. I'll look like that guy. That's cool. Kurt says, Pete, please do a YouTube broadcast and production on production technique behind the scenes, favorite gear and software. Well, I'll probably do a video on my new. I've been doing a studio kind of build, you know, taking all the shots. So that'll kind of be building the studio and showing the gear and stuff like that as it's. It'll probably be a fairly long video, but I did it from stage one of the construction. So it's coming along. I will have a new studio pretty soon here. And probably as soon as it's done, I'll do one of these live streams from there. So I can show you guys the room and stuff like that. Might try and do it actually so that I can move around the room with the camera and stuff and make it kind of portable. So, let's see. Travis says, Pete just bought a vintage Mesa 295 stereo tube power amp. You can use that as a giant doorstop, I tell you. I don't mean it doesn't sound good. I mean, they're so heavy. It'll hold open just about any door. I used to have one, so that's how I know. Great power amp. It was awesome. I actually moved down here with one of those. So believe it or not, I shipped a 12-space rack with a studio preamp and one of those 295s in it when I came to LA. I have multiple modelers and... would something switch between them without having to recable? Is there anything out there? Oh, I see. So you want to run a bunch of your modelers into, I mean, you can simply use a mixer, right? Like a simple, like small 8-channel mixer or something, and just run each modeler into the mixer and take the outputs of the mixer into the power amp, and then you can just open up different channels on the mixer, going into the, you know, depending on what you wanted active. That would be a way to do it. Did you ever gig with combo amps or just half stacks? I haven't really done a lot of gigs with combos. I've done gigs with open back cabinets. But most of my amps, I haven't even owned a lot of combos, to be honest. It's kind of weird. I always gravitated toward heads and cabinets. I did the last gig I ever did with Chris Cornell, which was in 2016. I used a closed back PT 212 cabinet. I used an open back Sir cabinet I have, which isn't here. Oh yeah, it is here right now. It's over there. I used this cabinet I got over here that had 65s in it. It's less than 65s. I just wanted to try it's still stereo PTs and stuff, but I had one open back cabinet, one closed, and it sounded pretty cool. And you get the spread out of the open back cabinet, kind of all around the stage and stuff. I did used to have an AC30 style combo from Top Hat. What was it called? A King Royale. And that was an open back 212. And for a while I ran that with the internal speakers as well as a 412 that had V30s in it. So it's kind of a weird rig, but I had a 412 and then whatever was in, I can't remember what speakers were in the Top Hat. It sounded great, like running all 6 speakers at once with that amp, even though it's kind of a lower power amp. It worked really good. Yeah, so I did do that. And then when I was with Melissa Etheridge, I think I was using the open back cabinet. Yeah, I was for my Jim Kelly amp. I was running an open back cabinet with that. So kind of combo-esque tones. So do you use the nut lube on your PT guitars every string change? No, I generally don't. Not unless I'm having a problem. But those guitars have tusk nuts on them, and they're really quite slippery. So I don't have issue with them. Let's see here. Ray says, cheers, just joined in. Ray, I got to go soon. I'm sorry, but I'll be out of here soon. Have I ever tried any of the Bad Cat stuff? Not a whole heck of a lot, no. Will new Sir PT cab be open or closed? It's going to be closed. You can always order a Sir open back cabinet if you want. They make different ones, like the 212 I have here, which is mainly for the Hedgehog. Will there be Helix presets for the Stomp? Really liking mine as a B rig to my AX8. I'd be happy to make some for the Stomp. At some point here, I have to make these Helix presets for, they're doing new sort of Helix marketplace or something like that, and I want to make presets for them. Where are you moving to? Back to Canada? No. Still in the greater LA area. I can't handle the cold anymore. What do you think of the Marshall 100-watt Silver Jubilee reissue? I'm sure it's great. Most of the Marshall, the JCM 800 reissue is great. I'm not super familiar with Silver Jubilee amps, although I've played them, so I have a little bit of an idea of what they sound like. It seems like the stuff that they're building now is good. I've asked Friedman about it, like, hey, are they just as good as the old ones? And everybody says yes, generally speaking. Let's see here. Ben says, I know you're busy. I emailed you, but didn't hear back. Should I just email again? It's so hard these days with people trying to reach you on a bunch of different, like email as well as, did you send me an email or did you send me a Facebook message? The Facebook, I just can't keep up with. Sometimes I go through and I answer a bunch of them, but I literally work like 12 hours a day just on the videos or sessions or different stuff I'm doing. And then like today, for the rest of the day, I think I'm just I do have a little bit of work to do, but I'd really love to take at least the evening off and not work. So I'm pretty crappy with email. But yeah, go ahead and email me again. Let's. I'm sorry if I missed it at all. I really apologize. I don't know what the answer is to it. Really, I'm just not need an assistant or something to help because I literally just don't seem to have enough time. I'm sure a lot of you out there have the same issue. How do you answer every text, answer every email, just do your job, go to the gym, eat right? It's time management is like tough these days. There's so much coming at you all the time, I find. Scott says, hi, Pete, do you use any voltage correction equipment like a Variac, etc.? I asked because I recently began throttling back my 121, 124 volts to 110 or 111 for my plexi. Loving the results. That's a good idea. Yeah, you should do that. Like either the brown box or get a Variac, and run your old amps for sure. So yeah, what I used to do was I would use especially when I go to Europe and stuff, and they use the step down transformers. And sometimes you don't know what the voltage, they'll use a step down transformer, and then if you use a Furman or something, you'll look at it and the voltage is still like 127 coming out of the step down. So especially if you have a vintage amp, they're not designed for that. So you can use a Variac. So you go step down to a meter, step down to the Variac to the meter, and then you take the Variac and dial it down so it's more like 115, 110, something like that. And I do that sometimes. Yeah, when I go to Europe, I have a great big red Variac, and I'll take it and run everything on it, my pedal board and my amp and everything, and I'll look at the meter and dial the voltage back to something reasonable. Because especially with vintage amps, they're not meant for that. Let's see here. Christopher says, we are the same age, been following you since the eruption video. Can you explain how you have your Musicom Lab pedal switcher wired on the front end of the amp and in the with the time-based effects? So basically, I go into the Friedman buffer bay. I come out of the buffer bay into the Musicom Lab switcher. In 8 or 9 loops of the switcher, I've got a whole bunch of compression drives and a reverb and delay that I can run in front of the amp. Then I come out of the switcher to the front end of the amp. And then I come out of the effects end of the amp back to the Friedman buffer bay. And the Friedman buffer bay sends the signal to an Eventide H9. And then I come stereo out of that H9 to a second H9 and also a Boss DD500 delay. And then I come out of that stereo back to the returns of 2 amplifiers. That's it. So in other words, the H9s and the DD500 are in the effects loops of the amps, and they are not connected in any way to the Musicom Lab switcher because they got their own MIDI and I can bypass them separately. So so only pedals are running only like just drive pedals and a couple MXR delay and reverb are running in the effects loops on the Musicom Lab. Zach Wilde said he recorded No Rest for the Wicked in 1988 with the same Marshall GSM 800 combo John Sykes used to record the Whitesnake 87 album. That's interesting. I wonder if they used I didn't know that. I wonder if he used a Marshall combo and then ran the speaker out into a cap, like a 412 or something like that. It's probably what they did. But basically, it's just a combo amp, so you could take it and run it into a cabinet if you wanted to. Shauna says that Ben, you should connect with Ben. He's going to be at NAMM and Rocks. And that's Ben, that you're the fellow that you're saying you emailed me to my Ymail account. Yes, I'll look for that later and see if I can find your email. I'm really sorry if I missed it. I'm terrible these days with missing emails. Let's see. Have you used the Digitech Trio Plus? I have not. I was supposed to make a demo for that thing, and then they never sent me one. And I forgot about it. And I guess they forgot about me. It's supposed to be cool, though. And I thought, well, that looks like a cool thing. Well, recording software to use, I use Logic, and I've been using Superior Drummer a lot as of late, and I love that. Well, it's 12:45. I got to run here pretty quick, guys. I'll take a couple more questions and then I'm out in like 2 minutes. Scott says, thanks for taking my question, Pete. Yes, I'm using the brown box. The brown box, if you guys know, is if you got a vintage amps like Plexis or old Fenders or AC30s, brown box is the thing that'll drop wall voltage down to 110, which is what your amp likes to see. It's like a little sort of preset Variac thing, as I understand it. Definitely supposed to be a great thing. Alvin says, who's getting a new guitar for Christmas? Are you, Pete? How many electric guitars do you have? I don't know. Too many. I need to sell some. So I'm getting a new home for Christmas. That's what I'm doing. I'm moving out of this place. So pretty soon. So I'm going to relocate, which I'm really excited about, actually. Not that I don't like this place. I do, but there's construction going on in the area, and it's so noisy now, and my peaceful vibe has gotten shattered. it's generally pretty quiet here, and it ain't anymore. So it was time to move anyway, and that just really pushed me over the edge. So it's going to be a busy December. Let's see, but I digress. This live stuff is why Al Gore invented Google. Moving down to the bottom of the chat, Quentin says, love the live stuff. Thank you. And let's see here. What else we got? L. Scott says, my buddy Lawrence says, new home, an investment in your future. Exactly. That's right. Got to do it. I'm being abusive to myself in my old age, I always say, without, I'm finally buying a place is the deal. So I've been renting forever, and I'm finally buying a home. So I'm super excited about it because I'm adulting for a change. Rock and roll and noise pollution. Exactly. That's the truth. Good old rock and roll. Okay, guys, I'm going to wind her down now and go get some lunch and stuff. And then I got to learn these Rush tunes. So I'll continue on Spirit of Radio and move on from there. I have 3 to learn for this week. So you guys have a great rest of your week. And please be safe out there. Enjoy the rest of November. And I guess I'll see you before November's over. It's only the 25th. Oh, no, I guess it'll be the 1st the next time I do this. Isn't that right? And then I got to go to Canada. Anybody up in Canada that knows, if there's anybody up there that's outside Toronto or in Toronto, I'm going to Cosmo. And I'll be there in about a week and a half to do some clinics. And in Ottawa after that, next day. So that's the first week of December. I believe it's the 4th and 5th. So Cosmo's the 4th. So take care, you guys, and come out and see me if you're up there. All right. Rock on. See ya.